We'll start off with the recitation of the four great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless fixations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Okay, welcome to you all. Today's a little bit different milieu, being that it's about 105 in Riverside. My AC upstairs gave out, so I moved downstairs to Temple Gutierrez, and but we can certainly deliver the Dharma here. I wanted to start with what we've been learning from actually being presented and going to retreats. I've been working a lot on the Asta Sutra. This sutra in English name is The Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 lines. The book I've been using, I think, is the only translation in English, at least the one that I know, from Edward Coons. And it's just incredible. I mean, it's just an amazing one. And all you need to do is open it up and you'll find incredible treasury of wisdom in this sutra. And what we have here, I wanted to start, and I was trying to figure out how to talk about this. Our topic today is really who's your mother, and that's something that important for us to know in terms of how we practice. But I wanted to kind of back into it a little bit and going kind of pretty deep into the Asta Sutra. And just kind of listen to this. It's a bit lengthy, but it's worth it to try to kind of get a feel for what the Asta Sutra is. This sutra is a sutra of perfection of wisdom, and the perfection of wisdom is a practice that I always refer to as right view. It's different. It's different from other sutras. It's different from other practices. If you go and you practice something, Advaita Vedanta, Hinduism, Jainism, whatever, they'll have some things that are very similar and some things that are there. But still, this perfection of wisdom is different because it heavily relies on ekayana, just a single mind. And this is very important for us to understand, but because beyond that, there is no self, and there's no polishing of self. When we try to polish self, we're not practicing right view, we're not practicing fundamental Buddhism, we're just trying to be a good human being. But it does not lead us to a manner in which we can awaken. We are awakened to being a good person is better than being a bad person. And it may improve our lot with respect to even our next lifetime. But nevertheless, it is not the way out. It's just a way to a better lifetime. And being able to do things, but it isn't really what Buddhism about in terms of Mahayana. Now, Mahayana Buddhism and this Asta Sutra was one of the earliest sutras, dating back to about somewhere between 134 BC and 58 BC. So it is very early on, and it's absolutely incredible for back then to have a sutra so incredibly penetrating, so incredibly beautiful in its positions and its practice. It's just literally so precious, so much of a jewel. And if somebody would tell me, Gilbert, we will give you we will say that you won the maximum lottery in the world, but you have to give this up, I would not do it. I would not do it. The best I could hope for is to become some mega billionaire that people go to for political favors or whatever, or vice versa. I don't want to do that. I don't have any need for that. But this is precious because with this, I can make poor people rich and rich people humble. This is so precious. It is why I present it to you. And the concentration this year of perfection of wisdom has been such an incredible present to me as a presenter of Right View Dharma, because it gives me so much to offer others. And it's worked. And I've seen it on my students. I've seen it on people who are just novice and come into it. And I see how they are. I see that they are much better, not just simply in the understanding of Buddha Dharma, but in the relationships with others. I see that so clearly. The thing is, sometimes the people, they don't know that. Why would they know that? Their self is going, so they don't have any reason how far they've come. There's no reason to try to measure it and say, I'm 75% of the way there or 85%. Please, it doesn't work that way. What matters is what we do with this. And this is, I'm giving you a preface of this from my own heart so you can see that this heart, it comes from perfection of wisdom, and that's what this book is all about. So let me now start with that kind of an opening, and you'll see what this is about. So it says, in addition, persons who belong to the vehicle of bodhisattvas give up, if they give up and abandon this perfection of wisdom, which nourishes the cognition of all knowing, and decide to look for sutras which do not nourish it. Furthermore, those who do not train themselves in the perfection of wisdom and who do not want to train in worldly and supramundane spiritual dharmas nor go forth to them, as they do not train in perfect wisdom, they cannot go forth to the worldly and supramundane spirited or spiritual dharmas. Those people of limited intelligence get rid of and abandon the perfection of wisdom, which is the root of the comprehension of worldly and supramundane spiritual dharmas as they really are, and instead decide to look for support in what are merely branches. And here the analogy is branches and leaves, and people are looking for those in the branches and the leaves, the meaning of things. Here I have a wonderful bird's nest fern, and I touch the leaves, but what makes this leaf is the root and nourishing the root. We don't nourish this, sometimes because I like my plant and I like to make it look pretty, I may spray it with some wax to polish it, make it look nice and shiny, but it's still a leaf. It's not the root. We have to understand without the root, this does not come into being. And so it's this analogy that's very, very important, that we understand what the root is. The root being the mind. Not your mind, not yourself, but mind. This is something we have to begin to just back away from the self, back away from the ego. Just kind of push it away from you, like on a Thanksgiving dinner. For those Westerners, they'd understand more than probably people from the East. But you could say on a happy, what do they call it, New Year's Day in China, all these big meals, and you just push away from it. You've had enough. I've had enough. haven't you had enough of this world? I mean, haven't you had enough of eating all you want and then getting a stomach ache or getting ill, getting sick, old, dying? How many times do you have to do that? Say, it's enough. And if I want to polish this world, especially me, for what good? I just am a leaf on a branch. It is this that the Heart Sutra is going to and saying, go to Mula. Mula is the root, and you have to go to the root. And Mula is used a lot. MULA is used a lot for root, the root cause. But here it is the root of a of the source of all things. I'll ask Sentha too. Do you know Nagarjuna's Mula, and then there's a whole lot. Do you know how to say that?
Yeah, Mula Madhyamaka Karika.
You see, I could have said that. Say it again.
Mula Madhyamaka Karika.
I've tried saying that so many times and it never sounds that way. You know, it sounds so, bad when I say it. But the thing is like a Westerner or trying to order Mexican food at a Mexican restaurant. You just go, ooh, but it's okay. It's wonderful. This is Nagarjuna. It's the root. He's talking about the root. Where did he get it? From the root. This is what we're studying, is the root, the perfection of wisdom. So let's continue on for a little bit. Sorry, the writing is really, really fine. Some person belonging to the vehicle of Bodhisattva will spurn this perfection of wisdom, which is the root of the cognition of all knowing, and decide to look for the core or the growth for Buddhahood in a vehicle of the disciples or the Pratika Buddhas. Disciples sometimes are referred to as Shravaka, sound hearers, and Pratika Buddha is a self developed Buddha. But this Buddha lacks bodhicitta. They don't really understand for why they practice. They understand how things happen, but they're not completely finished, which really corresponds to the branches and the foliage. So it says, if you study that, you're studying the leaf or the branches. And so it says, this should be known as done to them by Mara, Mara being an evil force. So it's saying, pushing them away from what they should be studying. For those people of small intelligence will not cognize that the perfection of wisdom alone nourishes the cognition of all knowing. Now, this is very interesting because they're referring to it as a cognition, but it's of all knowing, but it's not really cognition because it's a lacking of duality. Here I would use awareness rather than the word cognition because that seems to imply there is a subject object there. But the cognition is essentially the mind's own awareness. In the mind's own awareness, it knows everything. There is not something outside of it. This is perfected wisdom. Every time I go back, my eyes have to adjust. For a bodhisattva should not train in the same way in which people belonging to the vehicle of the disciples and the Pratika Buddhas are trained, How then are disciples and Pratika Buddhas trained? So how do they train? What's the difference? Let's see how they train. They make up their minds that one single self shall we tame, one single self shall we pacify, one single self shall we lead to final nirvana. That's how they practice. Anything wrong with that? They're there and they're practicing. And here, this is a reference to a Theravadan practice of trying to reach nirvana. Here in the Theravadins, they did not emphasize bodhisattvas. So bodhisattvas was a Mahayana concept. We see that it was developing very early in Buddhist theory and doctrine. It wasn't some Johnny come lately. It was there. It's just that the two branches pulled away for a while. One of them containing everything is real, and then one saying it is empty. And for the ones that say everything is real, then the reality is we want to polish this self, polish this leaf. Okay. Thus, they undertake exercises which are intended to bring about wholesome roots for the sake of taming themselves, pacifying themselves, leading themselves to nirvana. A bodhisattva should certainly not in such way train himself. On the contrary, he should train himself thus. So pay attention, this is the way that you should train. My own self I will place in suchness, and so that all the world might be helped. I will place all beings in suchness. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I will lead to nirvana the whole immeasurable world beings. With that intention should be a bodhisattva undertakes all exercises which bring about all wholesome roots. But he should not boast about them. And then it continues on in terms of analogy of an elephant, but that's not the part I wanted to talk about. What I want to do now is, because when we see this, then we see this is the premise of perfection of wisdom, is to place ourselves in suchness. To enter suchness, one has to abandon the individual notion of a self. There is no person, being, personality, or an ego. There is no polishing of those notions to make them better. I've said many times that the practice of perfected wisdom is something that is not defined by words, but demonstrated by conduct. If we say that we have reached a certain level, this is foolishness. Exactly where do we see this level in comparison to the level below or the level above? Where are these levels that we go to? And precisely, where is nirvana? Where would you find nirvana? Well, you go past Disneyland, you make a right, and then you go up and travel for 5 kalpas, and there's nirvana. There is no locale. There's nothing in this way. It is a different language that we practice with. It is the Buddha language. The Buddha language is not one simply of cognition. It is one of faith. Of faith. You have to have the faith to be able to make that step, to leap off of that 100-foot pole. You are capable of doing it. Why? Because you already possess Buddha mind. You simply have to erode all of these habitual patterns We don't necessarily have to erode these habitual patterns on a long, long journey. In one single instant, you can shatter the idea of reality. And one of my favorite ways of trying to explain that is Han Shan's saying that you need to be able to take a sword and pierce the sky. Pierce the sky. We're not talking about going and slicing the moon in half and going, what's inside of it? Oh, it looks just like a golf ball. No, it's not that way. We're talking about piercing sky, space. What's there? It's inconceivable. But we know that if we could slice space, the space is not real. If it was real, it would be immutable, never changing. But if we can cut it, we know that it is changing. Very funny when we see space. Sometimes it's light, sometimes it's dark. Is there a dark space and a light space? No. We have this all backwards in terms of how we look at things. But when we begin to really investigate, to contemplate, it is this contemplation that leads to the ability to let go, to jump into this void or abyss. The void or abyss is only simply samsaric words, and scary at that, to say that all that we hold to be reality is an illusion. And the sutra, it says, those reading these words who do not become afraid or confused, they will be able to penetrate mind. But you have to be there and be able to stand up, like the sutras say, stand before 10,000 opponents and be able to tirelessly overcome them. It is in this way that we have to practice fearless, a bodhisattva warrior. Not because we want to kill something, we just want to remove the illusions that are there. So we get to the title of this, and we find it in the in chapter 12 of the sutra. And for those who do have this book of Kunja, let's see, it would be actually just page 31. So it comes in very early in there. And the title of this verse is Perfect Wisdom, the Mother of the Buddha. Perfect Wisdom, the Mother of the Buddha. And you go, well, okay, wait a second. I thought the Buddha was the ultimate. And you're saying the mother of the Buddha. And understand, if we say, well, who's the mother of the Buddha? You might say, oh, Maya is. No, Maya was the Shakyamuni Buddha's mother. That's not the mother of the Buddhas. We're talking about, of all time, the mother of the Buddhas is perfect wisdom. Let this sink in. This is incredibly, incredibly profound, or it can be just something you let slip by while you're doing a crossword puzzle and listening to me. This perfected wisdom, now it has this analogy that it is the mother of the Buddhists. The Buddhas, the term Buddha is an analogy. If a Buddha was to meet a Buddha, they would not, what would they call each other? Buddhas, or they're not separate. I don't know what they would do or how they do that. And that's certainly a reward body. I'm not um, commissioned up that high to do that. I'm just here. But how would they communicate with each other? Very well, without differentiation and discrimination. Very smooth. So let's go by it and see what they say. So it starts, if a mother with many sons had fallen ill, they all sat in mind would be busy in themselves about her. Just so also the Buddhas in the world systems, in the 10 directions, bring to mind this perfection of wisdom as their mother. So we're seeing this perfection of wisdom because in order for a Buddha to become a Buddha, the Buddha must exceed beyond Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, the highest perfected wisdom. That's how they got there. So how did you get here? First of all, they'd say, where and who are you talking about? But the Buddha understands the awakening comes from the perfected wisdom, not just listening to the words. Oh my gosh, I wish it was that easy. I wish I would open up an awakening stand and I would have like nirvana. If you want to go to nirvana, that's going to cost you so much. Awakening, then that would be another price. A full load Buddhahood would be a lot more money. It was going to cost you your life, but it's worth it, right? But it's not with the words. We can't do that. You can't buy it that way. At me, in terms of presenting the Dharma to people and answering questions for people and people asking me about their levels or whatever, I am like my master. My master was probably even more tighter. That in this way, he wasn't a cookie mom. He's not going to give you a high five. I sat for 10 periods without a single thought. High five. Here's a cookie. It doesn't work that way. You would probably be given the sound of one hand clapping instead. What do you expect? What do you expect? The good masters, they tell you about Master Boshan's 2 words that his master told him, not yet. It pushes you harder. Those not yet doesn't mean that you will never get it, because yet implies that it's possible, but not yet means that it's not here yet. Apply yourself with a single-minded purpose, single mind ekayana, to perfect your wisdom. This is the way it goes. But it's not wisdom to say, I have arrived at this level. I understand the world. I understand all of these things. I can fly. I can do whatever. It's not that way. I don't care if you could fly or you have this power or that power. It doesn't do you any good. The true power is having an awakening to this great interest in removing the suffering from the world, that we really feel that in every moment, every essence, that we work in this way. Sometimes the people, they're not willing to eat bitter. They don't know how much effort it takes to practice that you forego sleep to study. And you respond to people because this is what you do. You answer their questions. And that you know that you could be doing something else. But you choose to do this. You don't even choose at some point. It just automatically is a demonstration of the wisdom that runs through you. I'm not saying this is the highest because I haven't gotten to the highest perfected wisdom. And I won't get there because there's no me to get there. The only thing I really want is to burn up this ego in the present moment. Burning up the ego in the present moment, or at least part of it, I found to be very helpful. Not to me, although it does help my life a little bit easier, but effective in presenting the Dharma to others, in fulfilling the vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. So we continue on. The saviors of the world who were in the past, and also those that are just now in the 10 directions, have issued from her. That's how we get these great practitioners, these great bodhisattvas in the world, from perfected wisdom. Nobody came around and just conferred on them this. It was something that we see clearly that this is the way that one practices. And this demonstration is there. This is the demonstration of love. And I'm not talking about superficial love. I'm talking about this indiscriminate love, this care that a mother would have if she saw her child on a bed involved in a horrible nightmare of wanting to wake up that child. The love of a mother that doesn't let their kids eat pounds of candy. It's also a tough love. She is the one who shows the world for what it is. She is the genetrix, the mother of all jinas. Jinas are Buddhas, the ones that have made it through. So she is the genetrix. And I love this term genetrix because it sounds so exotic, so much more important than just simply saying she's the mother. It is like from where everything comes forth from. This genetrix is the essence of everything. We could think of another term for it, which would be the Tathagata Garbha, the Buddha womb. And in this way, is the genetrix that brings forth this in accordance with causes and conditions. If one is practicing to polish their self, that's what you get. If one forgets about that and practices to perfect this wisdom, then that will be demonstrated in the actions here. There's no prize that one gets. Although they refer to it as the jina, jina is one that has gone beyond. It is not necessarily gone beyond and is gone. It is only gone beyond the idea that this world is real and this world has an independence to it, which it doesn't. And she reveals the thoughts and actions of other beings. So this Buddha, mother of the Buddha, knows everything. It knows the actions, the thoughts, the desires. How could it not? This genetrix that we have has also another name, which is Prajna Paramita Devi. Devi means goddess. If you hear the term diva, that means a god. But here, they kind of use the word Devi like kind of a goddess, but it's not really a goddess in the way that we look at things. It's just simply this term to elevate this to the highest respect. And so very, very early, there were iterations and statues of the Prajnaparamita uh, Devi. Then the Tibetans really took off with it, and is there? It's generally demonstrated sometimes with four arms, and or touching the heart. And you say, well, that sounds like Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Yeah, it's very, very similar. It's also very similar to the appearances of Junti. In Sanskrit, I think it's Kundi. The Chinese, is that right, Wei Shan Junti? Yeah, I got one right. That one is an easy one. You try to say Mula, whatever it was.
It's Chundi.
Huh?
Chundi.
Chundi is in Indian.
Yes.
Yeah. Chundi is in Indian, thank you. And in Chinese, they changed it to Junti. In Western, we refer to as Kundi because that's how they spell it, Cundi. But it's very similar. And so all of these iterations, what appear to be goddesses, have a very similar connection to them. The Junti is one that emphasizes Dharanis or sayings that have special significance to them, and so people will practice those, and they believe that if they do these and do a substantial repetition of them, such as 100,000 times, they will get somewhere, and they will, because that's a great application where you're practicing and doing recitation. You're busy doing something of some value rather than allowing the mind to just stray wherever. So these kinds of practices are practices of developing concentration and developing the heart, developing that focus on wisdom. And so some of this then turns more devotional than it does of the practice. But in the practice, what the Prajnaparamita Devi represents is this great wisdom, but perfected. It is mostly in this aspect of perfection that has the results. I can tell you what is wise to do. And knowing that, you would know in this world what is this wisdom of whatever I'm going to say or not say. But if you do not practice it, you will not know the essence of it. And that is what the practice is this perfection of wisdom. And every moment presents us with an opportunity to demonstrate that. And this is what is important, because if you saw in here where it was saying, suppose you are practicing and you're essentially polishing the self, that is not really what we're doing. And I've said to you many times, that second level practice to try to become a better citizen of samsara is a secondary practice. It is this which sees through to the reality, sees through to this truth. And this is a very interesting truth, because this truth does not have an opposite of false. How is that? How can one have a truth that doesn't have a false? Because it is not in the sense of samsara that the answer can be found. It has to be found from the heart. And when one practices from this idea of the heart, then the truth will be revealed. It will be revealed in everything, and it's going to be revealed in a different way. we little by little begin to apply this truth, perfect this wisdom. We see the things there and we demonstrate it. We demonstrate our faith. Initially, we're demonstrating our faith that the words are true. Later, the demonstration is not one to gather faith, it is to display faith to others that this is the way. And earlier today, I was talking to Michael Snobel, which is our quantum physicist in residence, and he's spinning around some of the people now in his groups because he's bringing on a much more novel approach to seeing all this stuff, and it's perfect for a quantum physicist to think outside the box. This is very important. The box here is essentially samsara. And when we tried to do that, he had sent me an article on somebody that wanted to establish if consciousness could be proved. And there's a whole lot of problems with trying to show, can you prove consciousness? Exactly where? And the thing is that it is presupposing that where the consciousness is presented is a reality in and of itself, other than just simply an apparent reality. When we understand that it can be a reality, but only an apparent reality, not really permanent, not real, but belonging to mind, then it changes everything. What perfected wisdom does, that's so important to us, is it enables us to open our heart indiscriminately, non-differentiating to all, to care about this place, to care about how things are going, and it's something that it's a voice of reason. Today in my I guess because I signed up for Ring, I'm in this next door group, and it's all these neighbors, and they're always talking about stuff. But every once in a while, some politics or something gets involved, and somebody was saying something about the neighborhood. It had nothing to do with it, but somebody interjected. Well, there was a sign saying, love Palestinians on the back of a car, and the person says, well, you didn't love the Israeli kids, and so then it started a whole electronic war. And I came in and said, I love both sides. I love Jewish children and Palestinian children. I care about them. And hate begets hate. Why should we talk in this way? No, we can't. We accept that they each deserve to live in peace and freedom from tyranny, not only from outside their borders, but within their borders. And I thought it was pretty good. It was like, can't we all be friends? But there was like a pause for about 30 seconds, and then they started the war up again. But this is it, and this is this over here, and this and it. I just went, But at least I planted the seed. I didn't insult anybody. I didn't take sides. I just said hate begets hate. I will pray for them, and I will pray for them, and I'll pray for you. I didn't even tell them I was Buddhist, or that would have started a whole nother holy war. But in any case, we do what we can, little by little. We don't do it in a way to aggravate people or to show them up, but we try to demonstrate love and compassion. Think about that, how they're thinking about how stupid I am to talk about this. And it's kind of funny because there was a Elvis Costello song that came on my Apple Music, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? And I went, yeah, what's so funny about that? Why can't we get along? No, even a war 10,000 miles away, people are taking sides and want to kill their neighbors because one's a Palestinian and one's a Jew, or somebody just simply likes to fight. It's very sad. We perfect wisdom. We're the guardians here. I hate to say guardians of the galaxy, or you guys would go, oh my gosh. But we're the guardians of the cosmos, the caretakers. We're here to kind of clean it up the best we can. This is the way we practice. And if we practice in that way, it's not bad. Little by little, there will be changes. We don't have it and say, well, I better have a change before this time or that time. No, we just do what we need to do. We demonstrate wisdom. When you read this book, just open it up to any page and there'll be wisdom there. Incredible wisdom. So this is important for us because it is at the cornerstone of the Mahayana practice is this perfection of wisdom. It's not simply the wisdom to say, oh, I see mind is this, it's not this, mind is noumenon, but the phenomenon appears, I understand. It is the demonstration of that. How we can put that into practice, how we can use our heart, how can we expand our awareness to touch all sentient beings. So when we touch all these sentient beings with our practice, this is the demonstration of wisdom. It's not just simply spouting off words or whatever. It isn't in this way. So I hope that this helps you now that you know who your mother is. And apologies to your mother, but I'm just talking about overall who our mother is. And it's a good mother. So anyway, thank you for listening. All of this whole year has been nothing but perfection of wisdom. This is the theme. And my minor theme is that never before have you been this close. And that applies to all of you. You haven't ever been this close because never before have I been this close. Makes sense, right? That's pretty wise. Okay, I'll finish. Thank you very much. Let me talk more. We'll open it up to questions. Yes, Harry.
Hey, Gilbert.
Yeah.
Thanks for this. Quite something. I just was when you were talking about all the wars, I was thinking this Zen teacher Larry Rosenberg said, and many years ago, why it's really crazy that people are killing each other the way they are. If you just waited long enough, they'd all die anyway, right?
Yeah, that's kind of a little bit of wisdom.
So,
There, there was an economist, John Maynard Keynes, who had a bit of a wit to him, and because people were always talking about, well, in the short run, but in the long run, and he said, yeah, in the long run, we'll all be dead.
yeah. So my question is, we're so used to reading the Heart Sutra and reading Prajnaparamita, we forget about Prajnaparamita Devi, right? It's a different way of relating to something. And then when you think about Prajnaparamita, it's kind of a teaching, but it's also not a teaching because it can't be taught. And I'm trying to contrast that with the Lotus Sutra, which is the one vehicle, which is also a teaching that can't be taught. And the Lotus Sutra has three vehicles, but they're also considered one vehicle. It has the same kind of disparaging nature of the Shravakas and the Prateka Buddhas, but they're also considered part of the wisdom itself and not separate. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about that.
Well, it's interesting because the Lotus Sutra also is a Vayapula Sutra, meaning that taken as a discrete sutra, it still represents a Mahayana a doctrine, and so um, and it's there. It's just a different approach to it, but the themes are still the same,
Yeah.
and it's important because sometimes what people do is they cut off a little section of it. Sometimes, like some other religions, they'll cut off a little section and say, this stands for the fact that you shouldn't be this or this kind of a sexual persuasion or whatever, or that you this is like, you put your mind on this and this is what you get, whatever. But the Lotus Sutra is an incredibly valuable sutra. I mean, very incredible. And it's one that simply concentrating on that and contemplating that sutra can bring you there. The wisdom is there. The wisdom is there, and how to practice is there. It's clear. I mean, it is absolutely amazing where it takes you to. And there's very, very few people that truly read the sutras, much less penetrate the sutras. But I'm so amazed at any time when I read a sutra, how incredibly filled with wisdom they are, and you want to bring that. That's why I bring these little excerpts from this book and read them to you and say, hey, did you know that this says this? Look at this, listen to this. Where people go, oh, I don't want to read that, that's way too complicated. Well, true. Sometimes, that little part we talked about motherhood, I probably read it 20 times. And, after the first 10 times, it was starting to make a little bit more sense. I mean, yeah, I understand it on a textbook level, then you understand it on a metaphysical level, and then you get to the esoteric level. But it requires an effort to do that. Same thing with the Lotus Sutra. If you read the Lotus Sutra, let it take you away. It will. It will. I mean, it is awesome. And so when you see the sutras like that, if you want to use the Rubik's Cube of the Diamond Sutra, I mean, that's an amazing sutra too. It doesn't give up its wisdom that easily, but it is one in which we'll be able to do that. Even in this one, it was very interesting, this book of perfection. Way back, I think it was, I forgot when, now my memory's fading from me. It might have been in the 30s, where one person sent a copy to somebody in Europe to take a look at. And the scholar looked at it, was dismissive and put it away. He just said it kept saying the same thing over and over again. It's kind of like the Diamond Sutra. The first times you read it, it seems like it's just a repeat. And the same thing here, where it seems like there's these refrains that go through it. And then the guy kept reading it, and it got his attention. And mind you, he wasn't a Buddhist, but he was a scholar, and he started reading it. And then after he read it, he decided to publish the first 2 chapters of it. And he said, essentially, this is my private stash. I translated this for myself, and I'm practicing it, but I'll share it with you. And it was amazing because he actually then penetrated the sutra. He wasn't just copying words, but he was looking at it very seriously. One thing I have to tell you is that earlier I sent out to some of you who speak and read Mandarin a copy of this mother verse, but that verse is wrong. And I felt like I needed to take a look at it, even though I don't read Mandarin. For some reason, I felt something was wrong with it. And then from my translating team, I discovered that they were saying in the interpretation of the Chinese version that it was the sons that were ill, not the mother. So it was totally reversed. So do not take the Chinese one as the gospel in terms of a translation. The translation is not correct, even though it came from a very good source. It's not correct. It is not the sons that are sick. It is the mother. The very same way as in the Villa Macready, where Villa Macready was demonstrating to Manjusri that he was ill because all sentient beings were ill. And it's in the same vein. So hopefully I answered your question about the lotus. Yes, it is in that way. And if you get that, it will, you won't be here. You'll be teaching the Lotus Sutra, but you won't be here. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wei Shan, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, you you kind of already answered my question. You talk about that, but still, the mother was ill, and the children are very busy trying to take care of her. But the mother is ill. I think I can understand, but why the children are busy and they're very nervous and trying to take care of her. At that part, the very first sentence I didn't really get on this passage.
It's good, and so you should think in this way. It isn't all of that easy, but when you see this and you see that the mother is ill, there's an attention there to say, why is she ill? The children, by nature, by their own nature, by their own Buddha nature, are interested in the welfare of the mother. But likewise, the mother is interested in their welfare. So the mother, knowing that because the children are ill, the children are have now separated. Can you imagine they're not close to the mother anymore, and so it is in the interest, in the nature, to draw them back together again. And it is in this way where the mother feels ill, but she understands until these children come back, they're home again. They're home, and it's the whole. The mother here represents, you could say, the nest, where those children belong, and connected, and so that's the part that's very important for us, is that we have to look at this, that we're developing a wisdom. Now, as I see people as my children. I don't know if I'm their mother or their father. I don't think there is that. I don't see it in that way, but I see everyone as somebody that I care for in a non-discriminating, non-differentiating way. And it is through my ability to transmit to them wisdom and their ability to perfect that wisdom that enables us to come together. And it is this self-absorption. The mother is absorbing the self of the appearance of these children who have gone, let's say, astray. But coming back, they're coming to their original nature. They're coming to the mother in this way that brought forth this appearance. But for that, they would not appear, because everything is created by the mind. Everything. The wisdom of that is this deep prajnaparamita wisdom, understanding that and coming back to it, coming back and demonstrating it in the present moment is the way back, is the way in which the mother is no longer sick, or Villa Macready is saved. Not really saved as an individual, but the appearance of illness to him is there because there are those that are suffering. how would a mother not want to pay attention to the suffering, even though it's illusory? It is in this perfected wisdom that we understand that we are hammered and hammered and hammered, that there's no dwelling place. And when you start reading this, yes, it appears almost repetitious, that it's going and going and going that way, but it finally hits home. That's what the meaning of that verse is. It's very powerful, incredibly powerful, and it's one that is liberating. Not liberating for you, but those that you will liberate. You can use this to help you, to give you faith, but also to show others and let them digest this, contemplate this. Okay. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Changxian.
Hi, Gilbert. Yeah, I'm the one recite the large version of Perfect Wisdom. Yeah, I just finished the second time. Yeah.
That's 100,000 line sutra.
Yeah. But my question is about the, I should not say repetition, but also like certain kind of pattern. I don't know the short version one, but the large version one is like, for example, the Heart Sutra will like no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, and then the large version will keep no blah 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 and no, and then again like become like eye is permanent, ear is impermanent, blah blah blah. So about the kind of repetitive pattern in the sutra, the first time at the beginning when I recite, I feel very impatient. Yeah, I feel I understand the word, the meaning just literally. I don't have the perfect wisdom yet, but I already understand. But it's just keep repeating. Yeah, but then the second time I recite or later I recite, I sort of like that part because I feel it's very quick for me to just finish that volume. But anyway, I just my question is that I feel the repetition itself has some function, but I don't know what's that. I just feel that I still at the beginning I'm impatient, but now I feel I like repeat like that way. But I still don't get what that means. So I would like to ask you what do you see that part of this part of perfect wisdom? Thank you.
Yeah, it's very interesting because her practice is to read the sutra and just start and going through it. 100,000 lines is how long does it take you to do one time through? Yes, Libra unmuted. Did you? Oh, there.
I'm not the one. I'm not the one like recite every day, but so I'm not very dedicated. But the first time take me 7 years, and I'm already 20 years.
Michael's laughing.
Become now, so it's the second time I finish it already 20 years. So it's very slow, but I still keep doing it. But that's the one sutra I just keep doing. I don't know why. Not other sutra.
You make me laugh because you're looking at the time like a bodhisattva. You know, here people time things as to how long does it take a burrito to warm up in a microwave. You know, and you're talking about these years, these kalpas of time that you're doing it. All of it's still money in the bank, because what it does is it shows that you have the concentration to read it. What I would suggest is after if you finished it, then go back and then just open the book to any page and read it, but don't go to the next page unless you totally understand what's on that page. You totally understand it. Don't you see, the thing is, you've gotten to the point where you practice it like a shravaka, like a sound hearer. And most people, that's all they get out of it. It's like almost like a devotional practice of reading it to transfer merit, because the words are being heard and they can be heard in all quarters. But to understand it, to penetrate it, when you understand it and penetrate it, all worlds, they will quake, they will shake. The bodhisattvas, the devas, the devis, everywhere that you see, all enlightened beings will recognize your recitation, your understanding. It is in this way. They will come to listen. They will come to pay homage. Is this all imagination? If you think this world is here and we think this world is actually an imagining of mine, how could mine not be able to function in this profound way? To me, I'm a Buddhist, not because I was born into a family of Buddhists, but I'm a Buddhist because of everything that I've heard. It makes the most sense. I don't always feel comfortable all the time. As a Buddhist, I still have questions. But on the other hand, I've seen a lot of things where I thought was baloney that actually turned into things that were real. And I would never have thought that way back when, but it was from the faith that I talk in this way. Sometimes I'm talking and I'm listening to myself and going, wow, where did that come from? And it's something that this faith will draw out this deep wisdom that's there. I mean, 100,000 lines, I couldn't imagine more than one page at the most, in that all of that doesn't have something profound of wisdom that's stated on it. I don't even think that. So any page, if you read that page over and over again and penetrated it, is the expedient way, the way to the shortcut, to say, I want to understand what this means. This is very, very important. My practice a lot of times, to tell you the truth, is I will open up the book and then just come to a page and start reading that page. And I'm so stunned in terms of that, because I am determined that I will understand what that page means completely. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. At some point, you become very accomplished at understanding and penetrating the sutras. So you can continue to do what you're doing. There's no problem with that. But at some point, leave aside some time to really penetrate and to see what is written there. This constant refrain, I call it refrain, like in a song, where you'll hear the same verses on there. It is a key. They're there for a reason, and as you read them, they begin to set in. It's like when I did that with the Diamond Sutra, was the first time I ever encountered that kind of a refrain in anything that I read. And in the beginning, I was thinking, this book could be 5 pages long. But then I really started realizing how profound what was being said. What that sutra is doing is it's conditioning. it's realigning the mind with mind. And so when you see it in that way, it's cutting through all of the illusions by this constant repetition of certain points, so that you gain faith in that. So that's what's happening with that. So it's powerful because you keep hearing it, and it goes into the subconscious, and it is demonstrated by your actions, which clearly it is. It's being done by your actions. So I would just simply say, continue on with what you're doing. I'd never mess up with a practice that's so diligent like yours, but every once in a while, stop and read one page completely to see what is said there. Okay, but good practice. Thank you for sharing. Ernesto, what are you doing in there in the dark?
I got consigned to another room because prayers were in the other room. So I had to move. Gilbert, you mentioned the Gazan children and the Israeli children. I found myself immediately thinking about, unfortunately, I'm kind of a news hound, and I turned it on today, and it was all about Afghan children and the level of starvation that's occurring there now. And they had people on the ground in there talking with mothers in a hospital that had lost 700 children in the last, I don't know, 4 months or something like that. And they had pictures of the kids, and they talked about specific kids that had lived and that had died. And they showed their pictures as well, you know. I read your post. I think I cheered it about suffering and about it's okay to cry, and the level of which you care for people through sending out merit, as well as the fact that you're with them in the beginning, in the end, whenever. So I just wanted to say that moved me greatly because I believed you. This gets back to my question, which is way back at the Vimalakirti, the sutra about Vimalakirti, where he suddenly says, "This is the transcendence of generosity.
Yes.
This is the fulfillment of compassion." And I was like, how is it so? And I think I have a better understanding now how it's so. But, well, there's really no but. I wonder. I still, no, I don't wonder. I realize that the mind is so much more than I have ever conceived. And so I just wondered if you could comment on that, if you could comment on that statement from Vimalakirti in that sutra a little bit more.
This unconditional compassion, which I call unbridled compassion, is a true compassion. We do not have in samsara, in words at least, enough to describe great compassion. But great compassion can be demonstrated. And you'll see it in selfless actions of people, in things that we do, our practice. It can be something that somebody does for others. It could be something very small. It could be talking to a person that has a dying relative. to help that relative. It could be talking to a person that has problems, not Dharma problems, but problems. Giving time to people that have really sincere questions. These things are demonstrations of compassion where you go, wow, I could have been watching Dancing with the Stars. Instead, I had to talk to this person. Those kinds of things never are entertained in that way. There's people with greater compassion than I have. I mean, that are very, very selfless people. And I'm actually shamed at the deficiency of that. And I try my best to try to help as much as I can in my capacity. This is just what compassion is. People demonstrate it all the time. I always use Sue as somebody that has this demonstration of compassion and tirelessly working for others. And there's a lot of you, that in your ways contribute. In that is very amazing. My own assistant is in that way, and Esther, it puts up with a lot from me and from other people, and is able to do the things tirelessly, and people, and they really are responsible for their job, and it's not for me, it's not for them, it's for all the people that I'll be able to reach and to communicate with, and so she really stretches to try to do that, and I'm very appreciative of her because of that. There's a lot. I mean, people that that are there, and I try to pay it back. And to some of you, that are the senior students, I what I refer to as senior students isn't necessarily just simply because you guys are old. It is someone that has demonstrated their ability to really attend to Dharma activities, to bring people to the Dharma, to demonstrate bodhicitta, and their interest in studying, and their sincere interest in studying and excelling there, and excelling in the practice, and demonstrating bodhicitta, which is very important. And those students are the ones that will be the next generation that I can rely on. And I'm developing not just lay people, but monastics that have a right view, and that are sterling examples of people that are demonstrating wisdom. That's the difference. So what Villamakritti is talking about is this demonstration of compassion, and how we see it. It isn't something that's defined in words, but it's defined in our actions, in how we relate to others, and we relate by harmonizing. Probably the most difficult thing for me to do, it happened a few years ago, but it was not easy, was to forgive people that have harmed me in the past, or people that are perceived enemies or want to do me harm, that I transmit blessings to them. It's not easy thing to do, but it helped me to undifferentiate and don't discriminate against anyone. And in this way, it opened my heart greater to be able to do that. And this is the kind of compassion that he's talking about. This great wisdom, perfected wisdom. This is where we're practicing, and this is what my theme for this year is this, to try to bring you all to this perfected wisdom. It can't hurt. It's going to make your life better. If you're not always creating enemies, or being angry, or fighting with people, or thinking that this one's out to hurt you, or whatever, and then you do know that the wisdom is still there to know that there's people that might want to harm you, but you don't hate them for it. You just pity them for it because they're stuck in some kind of an egotistical competition with you or for whatever reasons. No, but you try not to be that way. This is a demonstration of the wisdom. I am far from a perfect uh, uh, person in terms of wisdom, but I'm a practitioner, and that's important. And this is what we do. This is how we practice. It is not for us to try to polish the apple to make the apple look better. It is just to absorb, have that apple be absorbed by mine, and then it works right. But thank you very much for that question. It's a good question. And you listen to the thing about that one was for a lot of people that have things going on. And recently, I've run into a lot of people that have people that are situations where they're dying of cancer or they've passed away, whatever, and it's a matter of trying to find the ways to comfort people, but not in a false way, or a bad way. For instance, you can't say to people when a loved one dies, well, everybody's impermanent, so you know that's just it. There's somebody that was running for office, and I think it was his nephew, that son was dying, and I think he said, just let him die, and then come to Florida. Well, I give too much information about who it is, but I couldn't think of a colder thing that a person can say. It's like, how can you even possibly think in that way, or to talk to people in that way, so devoid of a compassion, and so devoid of people's feelings. And whenever we communicate with people, we have to be mindful of their situation. We can't just simply say the Dharma, well, they'll be reborn and everything's good. No, they're hurting. That's why I said it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. You don't have to cry forever, but it's okay to cry. And it will help that person. So you use your wisdom to be able to talk to the people, and it will work for them. This is what we do. Our wisdom, when we're talking about this wisdom, it's a wisdom from the heart, and we tap into that so that we do not have a self, but we're not ignorant of selves. We're not ignorant of how people suffer and how they hold on to a sense of self, a sense of somebody that's dying. Of course, it's natural. It's absolutely natural that if somebody did, I would not say that. I mean, that would be just tempting fate to say, oh, it doesn't matter, when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. It isn't in that way. You can't think in that way, and you can't do that unless fate will punish you for saying things like that. I firmly believe that. But it's not our practice in that way. We still have one foot in samsara and one in the absolute. The absolute enables us to use wisdom, this proper perfected wisdom, to navigate in samsara. That's the difference. So we're able to harmonize with other sentient beings. We're not aloof to them. We are with them. So it's okay to, in that way, to feel for people. It would be unnatural not to. Okay. So, any other questions? Again, the questions are very, very good questions. Oh, here we go. Shloka.
Gilbert, Thank you for the lecture. I think this one really hit home for me in terms of something that I've been thinking about in particular. That's making me kind of emotional. Sometime last year, I had asked you about how to navigate a difficult relationship with my dad, because he's in a lot of suffering, and I can see that now, which makes it even harder. But it's that the suffering comes out in ways that make it difficult for other people to have a good relationship with him, and then that just perpetuates. And so you had told me to point out what's wrong and what's not nice, but to do it with love. And so I was determined to try that, and I did. And I'm happy to say that I think it's definitely changed at least our relationship, in that I'm more calm in our interactions, to the point where at least I can stay calm and try and be helpful in bringing about some awareness and he knows that it's from a good place, and I think that does influence his relationships with other people also. But it feels so slow. And every time that I go back, so the last few months when I was traveling, I was in and out of home. And every time I went back home, it kind of felt like a relapse. And it was just a bit disheartening. But it's like you said today, that we have to do what we can little by little, and we just do what we have to do. And I thought that maybe another way of looking at it is that maybe these seeds don't necessarily have to sprout in this lifetime, but maybe in the next one.
It is this way, and sometimes we can talk to people and tell them, don't take drugs, don't drink alcohol, don't do this or don't do that, don't be mean to people, don't be insultive or whatever. And it's difficult, and sometimes the people can listen to you and make a great change. Other times the people can they are not so conducive, but at least what you're doing is you're creating wholesome merits for future contact with these people. And it may be then in the next lifetime or lifetimes after that, your father becomes your child, in which you can instruct them in that way. And so you see things differently. It is in the long run that we do things. We can make incredible changes to people in this world. We can do that. Sometimes it doesn't, but it doesn't mean that there won't be changes. It's just that they won't manifest in this world because the karma is too strong. But we do our best. The worst thing that we can do is start yelling at somebody and doing it's like when I was listening to this neighbor forum thing, was so negative. People were lining up on both sides to say their nasty little comments and hatred. And I just said, hatred begets hatred. Love begets love. Even if love faces hatred, at least there's not two hatreds there. It'll neutralize, and it will change. You just have to have the patience to see the things and do your best. It doesn't mean that you have to deliver them in this lifetime, but you see that they have problems and you just keep revisiting it and revisiting it. Not easy. It isn't easy to deal with people, like that. And it's hard because sometimes you run into somebody that can be very, very difficult. And as a result of that, you feel like you're just being torn down. You don't allow them to be abusive to you, but you don't become abusive to them simply because they are the way they are. But we do our best, and it can change people. It can really change people if you try that. And sometimes I say, if you cannot help the people that are close to you and your family, how can you expect to help the bleeding crowd? You know, you have to help them. If you can't, it's okay, but at least you have to make that effort, and it will work. So keep doing what you're doing. It will change little by little. It will change, and it's going to change you. You already start with an incredible amount of compassion. You were given 10 times the amount of compassion that most people coming into this world have. And now you need to perfect it. And that wisdom will tell you where to go, what to do in your life. You're destined for great things, but you have to bring them. Now's the time in your life to really, and it may take you out of the country. No, but that's okay. There's no country you belong to. Okay. So hang in there.
Yes.
She's one of the good ones.
Um,
Are you in San Francisco area?
I'm in Ann Arbor. in
Oh, Ann
Michigan.
Arbor. Oh, okay. Well, I'll be in Michigan in about 3 weeks, I think.
I'll be there.
So you're welcome to see me there. I think the last time I saw you was in San Francisco, didn't I?
It was in Virginia.
It was
last
in
year.
Virginia? Oh, okay. Maybe so. I'm getting old, so I don't remember these things anymore. So if my name didn't appear there, I don't think I'd even recognize myself. Okay. Any other questions? Last questions? No. All right. So I will be in a couple of weeks going up to San Francisco, and then from there to Michigan. So anybody wants to see me in one of those places, look into it. And I'm still waiting for Letty. I don't know. I keep looking for you every single time I go up there, and I haven't seen you there. It's only 2 days, and it's not even a retreat. It's a seminar. So, be there or be square. Okay. And okay, that's about it. I see some new faces. You're welcome here. And I'm so happy. We got a double lilies here tonight. So that's interesting. And I see some code names, so I'm not really sure who those people are. But I'm so thankful to see you, and you're all welcome to be here. There's a lily. Okay, there's one. The Lily is, I'm not sure where she's at. So in any case, again, I try to make these lectures meaningful. And some of you don't know, some of you do know, like Michael and Esther, I think, and certainly Santha. I read for quite a few hours to do a lecture. It's not something that just I open a book and say, what am I going to present? What I try to do is give you the best of the Dharma that I can give you, something that you can take with you and inspire you and bring people and say, hey, you got to listen to this, and hopefully, we can add more and more people to this. This is not easy because this is not ABCs. It requires you to begin to practice, but just like Master Ling Chi said, as I see it, none of you are incapable of understanding this. And you don't have to understand 100%. But if I'm giving you something, and if the ABCs are like 10%, and I'm giving you 100%, and you only understand 50%, you're still 40% better than just the ABCs. So it makes sense. So in any case, please, study sincerely and in your own accord, and little by little, just coming to these lectures alone will make a difference in you in terms of how you practice. So anyway, see you, Letty. So okay, Any no last questions, and we can stop the recording. And so again.